Welcome to Paso a Paso Immigration Help with Steve Miller.
Welcome to Step by Step Immigration Help with Steve Miller. Steve is a trusted immigration attorney helping families navigate complex green card visas and waiver issues with clarity and compassion. I'm Heidi Mack, and today's episode is for couples planning their future together across borders. We're talking about K-1 fiancé visas and consular processing, and how to bring your partner to the U.S. the right way. This episode is K-1 fiancé visas and consular processing, what to expect when love crosses borders. Thank you for joining us again, Steve. We really appreciate it. Could you also introduce us to your partner here?
Yeah, thank you. It's a privilege to be here speaking with you. And this is Yanira Plazas. She is our senior paralegal. And we've been doing these K-1 visas for the last 16 years. So it's one of our special topics. It's our favorite topic because we're bringing people together, helping them achieve their dreams. So yeah, it's a pleasure to introduce Anita because she's really good at what she does too. And behind every good attorney, there's at least one really good paralegal.
Thank you. Heidi, nice to meet you, and thank you for allowing us to share this time with you. We're glad to be here and tell everyone a little bit about the fiancé visa process.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah. So let's get to it then. What is the K-1 fiancé visa and who qualifies for it?
Well, the K-1 Fiancé visa allows a foreign national, someone from a different country, who's engaged to a U.S. citizen. Remember, it has to be you have to be a U.S. citizen to take advantage of the K-1 visa. And before they get married, they get engaged. Then they can apply for a K-1 visa. And I'll let Nita talk about some of the details.
Yeah, so some of the criteria to apply for a fiancé visa is that the petitioner, meaning the person who's applying for their foreign national, has to be a U.S. citizen, whether that be by birth or naturalization. And then the second step is that they both have to be able legally free to marry, meaning like all of their prior marriages have been terminated, whether that be by divorce, annulment, or death. The third one is that the couple have to have met within 2 years of filing this petition. I think that some of our clients get very excited and they think, I've been dating and I'm ready to file the fiance visa. So we do a really good job in screening them just to make sure that they've met, that we have enough of the evidence. But I think meeting in person is probably one of the biggest criteria that we've seen that some people lack. So that's probably one of the most important ones. And then the last one is that once the foreign national is approved for a fiance visa, they are able to come in and they have 90 days to marry. So both the petitioner and the foreign national will have to have that intention of getting married within 90 days of them entering the United States.
And actually having enough proof, evidence of a relationship, and then providing it is really important, especially today, because immigration, they're trying to make it a little more difficult, and so they're requiring more proof of a valid relationship. So that's why you got to do your due diligence.
So then are like what you already have been saying, are those all the things that they need to do before applying, or like are there other documents that are involved that they need?
Well, to begin with, we have to make sure they're both eligible. The people are eligible, like Anita said. It has to be a citizen, it has to be a person, well, pretty much of good moral character too. You can't be bringing someone in with a criminal record. And the first step is you have to actually start gathering a relationship of the evidence of the relationship, like photographs, money transfers. That's very important. That shows your commitment to the relationship. And then travel records, your itineraries, and copies of different, maybe some Facebook posts and things like that. So those are things you want to have up front before you even start this process. And then the required documents. What do you think, Anita?
Yeah, I think that, like I said, when we screen our clients, we ask them a lot of questions because one, we don't want to waste our time and their money, and then second, we are working with individuals who are living in a different country, right? And so we just got to make sure that these documents are going to be available when we begin the fiance visa petition. One of the main documentations that we ask is passports, right? Sometimes we're able to bring in children with the primary foreign national, and sometimes it's hard for children to get the passport. And so, if that's an issue, we rather wait until they have that in possession to begin with the fiancé visa, because again, that's one of those required documents. The other one is we have to prove, right? A lot of this is having to prove to the government that one, the relationship exists, and that two, that the petitioner is a US citizen. So having the petitioner's US citizen passport, their birth certificate, or naturalization certificate, like I said, is primary to all of this. The second proof I would say is, again, if they've been married before, any divorces, any annulments, anything that shows that marriage was terminated. And like we mentioned before, a lot of this proof again is of them communicating as well. So like Mr. Miller mentioned, like travel itineraries, money transfers, social media posts. Social media has been a big thing nowadays, and so some couples have that available, others do not. And so we tell them this is not a required document. However, it's going to help support your claimed relationship in this fiancé visa process. But among that, I think that having this continued evidence. So it's not just in the beginning that you need to have this documentation required. You need to have it up until the fiance is actually here in the United States. So I think that's one of the most important ones is maintaining that evidence throughout the process.
Process. Very good. Yeah.
So then you were saying about this 90 days to marry. How long do they have to like get here? Is it part of that 90 days? Do they have to start the 90 days right when they get here? How does that work?
Yeah, I'll backtrack a little bit. Now, just people are going to be interested. What is the timing? How long does it take to get someone here on a K-1 visa? And it's very hard to say specifically for each country because the countries are different, number one, and each situation is different. But what we're seeing right now is, about 8 to 12 months, right in that time, to be realistic and truthful with people, not to over promise and under deliver. It may 8 to 12 months might be about a truthful assessment of the timing and required in doing a fiancé visa, and depending on how busy the consulate which we're working at is. So they once it's approved, once we file it and it's approved, then the fiance has 6 months to enter the country, and then once they enter the country, they have to get married within 90 days. And then they can apply for adjustment status because the fiance is here on a visa, non-immigrant visa, so she can't really work yet, or he or she can't work yet. So as soon as they get married, they're able to apply for adjustment of status, which would get the fiance a work visa and allow her to be productive in terms of making money.
What happens if they don't, marry within that 90 days?
Well, if they don't marry within 90 days, the fiancé visa is no longer, it's no longer valid, and so they're not here in lawful stay anymore. And they're actually overstaying their visa, which is somewhat dangerous to do these days because the Trump administration is looking very harshly on people who overstay their visas, and it could lead to removal proceedings, negatively impact them. But we do have people who don't file within who don't. Marry within the 90 days, but then later they do it and then they come later. So far, that's been successful, been able to help them also. But I would say it's best in this day and age with the environment we're living in to do whatever the government really wants to do in this aspect.
So then we've been talking about, this K-1 fiancé visa. How is that different from consular processing for a spouse?
Well, it's a lot different when it comes to timing. People will very often choose the fiance visa because it's the quickest way to get the loved one here, and so it's faster. It has certain advantages and maybe some disadvantages, but I would say it's timing that is the most important. And I need to talk a little more about that.
Yeah, I think that for a fiance, like we mentioned, it has to be a U.S. citizen, right? So unless the petitioner is a resident, then they wouldn't be eligible to apply for a fiance visa. A lot of our clients prefer the fiance visa avenue because, generally speaking, yes, it is much faster for the foreign national to come to the United States. compared to the other way, which is a consular processing. So let's just say that they get married, right? So then you're no longer a fiance. You're not longer eligible to apply for a fiance visa. You would be consular processing, meaning you're the spouse of a U.S. citizen at that point. And so that process could take a little longer. It could take, depending again on the U.S. consulate or embassy, it could take anywhere from a year and a half to 3 years. But in some situations, that may be the only way to go because one, they obviously weren't aware, right, that they were eligible to apply for a fiance visa. Or two, they might have some criminal history there that might impede their opportunity to apply for a fiance visa. But both ways will lead to permanent residency. It's just in terms of how long they're willing to wait.
Yeah, some people they just they're able to wait. Maybe they have a job down in in their foreign country, and they need to terminate their job and and take care of business. So sometimes the consular processing works well for them if they're willing to put up with the wait. And sometimes it's hard when they're newly married and want to be together, but yeah, sometimes it has to be done.
That's actually, fun fact for myself, that's actually how my parents were, but it was the '80s, so it went fairly quickly, but they married in the Philippines, and then yeah, like, they had to get married at the consulate and then also get married here. I mean, everything was legal, but that's the way they did it, but it seemed to go faster back in the '80s. I don't know why. So, I know a little bit.
Oh, that those were the good old days. It went very quickly back then,
Mhm.
and yeah, and it didn't take much paperwork, but that's not the way it is today. We are overwhelmed with the paperwork and the risk actually also the risks involved today, which is why you have to document your case
Yeah.
extremely well.
So then are there like, in your experience, are there countries that, clients most commonly it's involved for consular processing? Like, that you see a pattern?
A lot of the consular processing is done in countries where they don't come to the United States on a visa. Let's say if someone comes here. Very often someone comes from Europe, they come here on ESTA, they come on a visa, or sometimes they come on a tourist visa. And then when they do that, they come on a tourist visa, and then they find the love of their life, which everybody's looking for, of course. Then they can do adjustment of status in the United States. And it's so much easier. It's the easy way of doing it in comparatively and the least expensive. Because when you don't come here with a visa and then you're forced to do consular processing unless there are certain exceptions to that rule, like if one of your children joins the military or if you have a prior petition, then you don't usually have to do consular processing. But most people who come here illegally end up having to do it, and it's a rather long process, and it's more expensive too. So we try to avoid that if we can, but it's not easy. We do both processes, and people are happy with the result.
That's good. Do you see common mistakes from, clients to, delay the processing?
Oh, definitely. I'm going to let Anita talk about that because she sees a lot of them too.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it, again, has to do with availability of the documents. Each country has specific documents that they want. I think that in the Philippines, we had an issue there with trying to get the petitioner. That country wanted a police clearance. And so the petitioner had to go to well, here in Oregon, it was the Oregon State Police to get a background check. Compared to other countries like in Mexico, they don't need that, right? And so again, it's just looking very thoroughly at the National Visa Center website. And so, what's the National Visa Center? So once the fiance petition, the I-129F application is approved, which can take anywhere from 4 to 6 months, it is then transferred to a different department of the government called the National Visa Center. And so it's transferred to them, and then from there, that's where we start gathering the information for the next two applications. And on there, they have very specific about what type of documentation both the foreign national and the U.S. citizen will need, right? So here we go again. And so it's like another checklist of all this other evidence that we must obtain and require. But I think that it really just will depend on each country and what the petitioner and the applicant have with regards to like the criminal history or again passports. I think passport is probably the biggest issue because sometimes we have couples where the foreign national was married before, and let's just say that the father is no longer absent, right? And then they require the father to give authorization for that passport to be issued to the child. Sometimes that will require more time because then they need to get a family law attorney, right, to get that required passport.
It can become quite complicated, and we try to keep it from becoming qualified. We give a free consultation, in other words. So we try to help people sort out what they want to do and what they should be doing, and what's the most affordable route, and what meets their desired outcome the best. So that's why it's important for us to talk to people, and we like talking to people in person. We have them come to our office, and so it's that way we can, ascertain the facts and figure out what's the best solution based on what they want.
Is there any last like advice where you see couples where they need to start, like anything that we've missed in this episode?
Well, I think make sure that they're totally qualified for what they're applying for, and that actually is something that is important for every aspect of immigration applications today, because Trump organization or the Trump administration, they have started referring people to deportation proceedings if they file for a benefit and are denied, or even if they withdraw that application, they are going to be referred to deportation proceedings. So if you're not careful and choose the right thing, and I've seen this happen, people have come and they've showed me how that they actually asked for the wrong thing and then they got put into deportation proceedings. And you don't want to be in deportation proceedings today. So that's why you want to do your due diligence, make sure. I would talk to a lawyer that is experienced, has a lot of recommendations and good recommendations, and qualified staff. So it's not like it was back in the 80s. It's much more difficult today, much more. It's a compounded exponentially a larger amount of danger today than there was back then. So yeah, you just have to do your due diligence and be very careful. And I guess it's not something for the faint of hearted. Try to do something like this on your own might have worked maybe 20, 30 years ago, but to do it today, you're entering a minefield. What do you think, Anita?
I think no, I think you're right, and I think that that throughout the process, right, we try to maintain our clients informed about what's going on. And if there's anything like changing within immigration law that we think may impact our client's case, we're also going to be honest with them, right? I think I've been here more than 15 years with Mr. Miller because I love the fact that he's so honest, right? And we're working with an administration where any mistake could be costly, and I wouldn't want to expose our clients to something of maybe being separated, right? So we're constantly always on top of like any type of update with any type of immigration law, and we have to, right? We're working, like I said, working with an administration who is tough, right? It's tough on immigrants, and we're trying our best to also maintain our clients' mental well-being in this process, and also trying to not expose them to unwanted consequences of all of this.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much for all this pertinent information. That is it for this episode of Step by Step. If you're engaged or married to someone abroad and want to bring them to the US, Steve and his team can walk you through the process. Visit immigratenw.com or call 971 308 5892 for your free consultation. Also, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review today if you like this episode and you believe it's helpful or you know somebody that needs it. And so, thank you so much again, Steve and Anita, for all your information today.
Thank you very much for helping us get this out there.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.